Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round 5 of the Constructions Championship. Joining me tonight is Rob, Debug, and Damien as we are looking at this exciting qualifying where currently Crawford Brown is at the top of the leaderboard. Everybody's trying to squeeze the last bits and pieces out of their lap while it's blistering hot at 34 degrees Celsius ambient and track 44. Those tires are not going to be liking going about here.
Good evening. No, you're right. It is properly hot here at Circuit of the Americas this evening, and there are a lot of corners in particular where it's just going to absolutely shred the tyres up big time. So I think if anybody has any sense, which given that this is motor racing, that is somewhat questionable, I might add. They'd do the shorter of the two races tonight on the set of tyres they've qualified on and save a fresh set for the longer second race. But that's going to be interesting to see if anybody does do that or decides to put a fresh set on for race 1 and just kind of deal with the consequences, I guess, later on in the second race.
You know, I wonder if we go about halfway through the second race, if it might even be worth tossing the new tires on, because I don't think they're going to be able to get through half of the longer race with, you know, ungrained tires. I wonder if you have slightly grained tires, if that's going to be better, especially for some of the drivers that slide about a bit more. I really am seriously curious about whether or not you can get those 30 seconds back just by switching the tire.
I mean, we literally have no idea, to be honest. So this is going to be quite good fun indeed. We're just coming up actually to the last few seconds of qualifying. There's Crawford Brown. I think he's either just crossed the line or indeed he has, and he is currently showing us P1. Badowski is still on track at the moment in the McLaren, car number 45. So that remains to be seen. He's really the only driver, I think, who could potentially beat Crawford Brown's lap time here. In the Ferrari, there's Koszowski and Lessentin in third and fourth. McDonald is still on track at the moment in the Lexus. Then it's Vlayen in the Audi, and then Shipston, Wood, Plate, and Atkinson in the top 10 so far. That might change, though, because there's still some quick drivers on track. We've got Eddie Warden in 11th in the Bentley. Yep. We've got Brian Gillespie in the number 15 Honda NSX. He's had a couple of podiums so far this season, and that remains to be seen. There's also the likes of Martin Schaefer as well, down in 22nd in the McLaren. Max Hayes in 23rd. You don't normally see Max that far down the field in the Porsche, to be honest, and I would have thought the Porsche would have been doing okay here, because there are quite a few tight hairpins where you do need that really good traction, which the being in a rear-engined car does have. So,
well, I have it on good authority. He doesn't know the track all too well, so it probably has to play into that as well.
True, yes. It's like if we were racing at somewhere like Snetterton or Donington, for example, he'd probably be right at the very sharp end of the field, because he's got the advantage of actually having raced there in person, because Max is one of the few drivers in the RWB Discord server who actually holds a proper race license in real life.
And proper quick one in his class as well.
Yeah, in Caterhams. So, yeah, I do think there is a little bit of perhaps unfamiliarity with the track at play here. But it looks as if everyone has crossed the line. There's still Gillespie has in fact just moved up into 12th place ahead of Kostadinov in the first of the BMWs. And of course, I'm wondering if one of the reasons why some drivers are perhaps a bit further down the field than we're expecting could be to do with ye old track limits. I do seem to recall a race a good few years ago now here, back in what was still the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge, where they were racing on what I think was Cota, although it might not have been. It just looked vaguely like it, because I think they were told that the track limits were basically anything that was tarmac. So it was some. It was like the Spa 24 Hours a few years back. You probably remember the one I'm on about, where they didn't actually bother enforcing track limits until the morning of race day. So before then, it was a case of how close do you dare get to the walls. And believe you me, when you tell that to a bunch of professional racing drivers, including some of the best GT drivers in the world, like Marciello, Vantor, Van der Linde, and co, then they're going to be pushing it to the absolute extreme. And they did, and it was a very similar situation, I seem to recall. So yes, methinks a few people might end up getting done for getting penalised for it. Should we do a quick rundown of the grid?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so starting on pole position, it is Crawford Brown in the Ferrari car number 3, and alongside him on the front row is Marco Badowski in the 45 McLaren. Then it's McDonald in the 66 Lexus, ahead of Adam Kajowski in the 919 Mercedes. Tom Shipston is in 5th in another one of the Lexuses, ahead of Lesentin in the 723 Mercedes. Then it's Wout of Leyen in the 666 Audi, ahead of Nigel Wood in the 77 Ferrari. Rounding out the top 10, it's Emo Plate in the fastest of the Nissans. That is some hell of a job from him to get that thing in 9th. Bloody hell. And then Atkinson in the 112 Audi. 11th place is Eddie Warden in the 31 Bentley, ahead of Brian Gillespie in the 15 Honda NSX. And then it's Todor Kostadinov in BMW car number 1, ahead of Ian Mackey in the number 97 Bentley. Peter Varga is in 15th place in car number 12, that's McLaren, ahead of Dan Birch and Berno Reitzmer, both in Mercedes-Benzes. Then it's Damien Vilk in 18th place, ahead of Ian Begg in the Audi, and Martin Schaefer in the McLaren, rounding out the top 20. Harry Hottie is in 21st in the number 22 Lamborghini, ahead of Dan Barnett in the number 16 Nissan GTR. Then it's Max Haynes in the 111 Porsche, ahead of Xavier Eugeni in the number 2 Aston Martin. Jack Mason is in 25th place in the McLaren, ahead of Mad Al in the number 4 Nissan GTR. Then it's Al Gartner in 27th place in the 125 Lamborghini, ahead of Miko Sky in the 777 Bentley. Giorgio Minga is in 29th place in the 104 Bentley, and rounding out the top 30, it's Matt Sherblum in the 555 BMW. Gianni Lenz is in 31st in the number 7 Audi, ahead of Blake in the 159 Russell Blake, in the 159 Aston Martin. And then rounding out the field, it's Magnus Dahlgren in the number 89 Ferrari, and Nathaniel Shirley in the 46 Lexus, which I can only assume was because of track limits as to why he is currently starting absolutely dead last.
He joined very late.
Okay, right. Cheers for that. So that may... So I'm wondering if he even actually had a chance to get a qualifying lap in, let alone a banker lap. Okay.
The exact same situation for Dahlgren. He actually lacked required track medals to get into the server. He literally joined by the skin of his teeth.
Oh wow! So those two cutting
Lexus pop up at the back of the grid, like just as they were forming up on the grid.
Yeah, wow. Let's talk about cutting it fine. As the field comes out of the final corner now. Just waiting for the lights to go green. Everyone's on the pit straight here at least. And the lights go green now after... Crikey, at least the first 6 rows have gone through, and then from there it's a very short run up the hill towards the pinch point that is turn 1. Is everybody going to get through cleat? No. Well, there goes that then, as there's all sorts of carnage going on in the midfield. Crikey, I have no idea where to start with that one, but that can be dealt with later. But Reitzmer, we're currently on board with now as he heads through the S's in the Mercedes. The S's, which was said to be modelled on the Maggots Beckett's Chapel complex at Silverstone. I have my doubts about that. Can you tell I don't really like this track terribly much?
You're not alone.
I think everyone here hates the track.
Fair enough. It's currently with McDonald at the moment as he is right on the back of Kajowski, right on the gearbox of the Lexus there. Coming out onto the back straight, and there's a collision about. That's Gillespie there, I can see in the NSX. who was involved in that. I didn't quite see if he was the instigator or the I've been hit, but he has dropped down quite a few places. He was running as high as P11. It's now currently down to 22nd, 23rd at the moment. Hard on the brakes now for this arena type section that was supposed to be modelled on the arena at Hockenheim. There's a bit more carnage going on in the background on the brakes for the at the end of the back straight, excuse me. And then into this tyre shredding right-hander that was said to be modelled on turn 8 at Istanbul Park. Apart from the fact that that corner is actually a left-hander, but we'll gloss over that for now. Hard onto the brakes into the final corner here. And they complete the first racing lap.
Rather clean so far, with only very few amount of incidents. Like, this is not an easy track to get by side, especially not on an opening. There's a lot of technical corners. They're very difficult to nail, and it's very easy to lose someone on your inside just because of the amount of turning you have to do.
Oh yeah, it's like, well, if you look, we look at turn 1, for example, or, well, we're going to be coming up to in a minute to the end of the back straight. The way the corner is actually designed is that it's massively wide on entry to try and promote different lines for overtaking. So at that point, you have to be so reliant on what your spotter is telling you as to whether you've got car inside as Wood and Atkinson battling away there.
Atkinson, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just having a quick look to see which Audi that was. That is indeed Atkinson. And okay, so we're going to actually come up to one of the corners I'm on about here, so you can see how the track widens massively on the approach to the corner, and then it leads to drivers trying to take multiple different lines. So that's where and why the opening lap in particular here is absolutely lethal, because you got drivers, they all know it's a 20-minute sprint race, and they're all going to be so desperate to try and make up positions that it's almost inevitable, really. I do feel for the likes of Mad Al and RWB Audi and co in the stewards room, because yeah, I think they might be having quite a busy night next Monday. I'll put it that way.
You know what? I'll tell you, I would not want to be in the Bentley for this track.
It's a big car as well.
Turns like a boat. Like, it is a sitting duck in those corners. Like, if you just look at the difference between the performance between Mackie and Begg, for example, like, Mackie is trying to pull everything he can out of that car, but you just see Begg inching closer just because of how much easier that mid-engine car is through the corners.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the big Bentley. I don't want to call any of the front engine cars in this game front engine, because they aren't really technically front engine, because practically the entire engine's behind the front axle these days. So technically they're more front mid engine. But yeah, your point still stands. They are going to be absolutely. I'll tell you what. Come the end of the longer of the two races tonight, the 40-minute race, it is going to be pain, I think. There's a pit window has already opened as well, I should add. There's a few jobs already in the pits. Plates in, Gillisy's in, Mad Owl's in.
Kozalski?
Yeah, Kozalski as well, all taking their mandatory pit stop. Battle there between Schaefer and Barnett.
Schaefer going just a little wide.
Yeah.
As he eats that sausage scurps and now turns his car into a lawnmower.
Yep, over the down the hill there. Ooh. There's Bentley. I don't think that is for. No,
that is not for position. I think that's Miko Sky.
Yeah, I think Miko's already pitted as well, so he's at least doesn't have to worry about pitting unless something goes drastically wrong during the remainder of this race. But he should be okay to go till the end. There's Schaefer in the McLaren. Absolutely phenomenal brakes on that McLaren as well. So now with Gianni Lenz. Oh, we could be getting a little bit of a GT Hub on GT Hub action coming up here as Lenz versus Varga.
I think that's Mason, actually.
Oh, no, you're right. So that could well be Mason. They're both driving McLarens, and in fact, that is the
22.
22.
No?
No, I don't think there's a 22 McLaren. There's a... Either way, it's one of the GT Hub McLarens. Probably not Badowski, to be honest. But as Lenz runs a bit wide there, and yeah, you're right. It is Mason. When we come to the when it gets to Watkins Glen, we're gonna have some fun doing this.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Don't worry, we do get better at trying to understand which car's which as the race goes on. Of course, it hasn't helped being out the commentary box for about 3 weeks, but there we are. Currently looking at Max Haynes battling with Reitzma for 13th place, going through these S's here. Having to shift down to second gear for that final pass. Does not flow well at all. Down the hill now towards the heavy braking zone that leads onto the back straight, which is where I'd expect the Porsche to have a bit of an advantage over the Mercedes.
I mean, the Porsche just has the smallest aero profile in the entire game, and definitely on track right now. So it's going to do fairly well as long as Haynes manages to sit in the aero profile of the Mercedes. But I don't think there's any real possibility for him to pull out and then still be alongside. He's gonna have to make it work on the brake somewhere into the twisty section, and then hope he can get enough out of that. But I've noticed something really interesting here. That Porsche has front aero damage, and that is not gonna help him around this track at all.
Well, we've already just seen him take a slightly different apex to what Reitzma did, shall we say, coming off the back straight there, in that the apex was still a good, I'd say, 3 or 4 foot to the inside. Yeah, Max, I'd head into the pits now I'd head into the pits now, Max, if I were you, because
oh, his tires are going to be they're going to be gone now. If there's no flat spots them at this heat, it's 35 degrees and 46 Celsius. There is no way those tires are still going to function.
Well, they might.
Meanwhile, has set the fastest lap of the race while being in front.
Yes, the benefit of being in the Ferrari, which I seem to remember was very quick at Catalunya in the Enduro we had earlier this year, and I do think the Ferrari does tend to look after its tyres fairly well, as Lesentin has been given has become the first driver to receive the stop and go 30 of Doom in the 723. So that's going to be his race going down the pan, so to speak.
Max Haynes also got it up and go 30.
Yeah. I wonder if that's because he may have actually... I don't know. I can't remember. You two might remember a bit better than I do. If the stop and go 30 is the track limits penalty.
No, it's the pit lane speeding one.
Ah, okay. Cheers. Yeah. So track limits, of course. Oh yeah, track limits is drive-through. Yeah. So that. Yeah, that's not going to do them many favors at all.
I don't think it's going to come up in this part of the race yet. I think it's more of a scenario for R2, but something that definitely needs to be talked about with Cota is how long the pit lane is, and the amount, the ease of which you can get track limit warnings around this track. If you were to just manage to sit at a slower pace and not get any track limits at all, I think you might legitimately make up 10 positions next race. I'm willing to bet on that. I am willing to bet on that.
Oh, we were
not easy.
Yeah, we were actually discussing this off air earlier on. I remember it's so long ago. It's still the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge, but they had a race here, and the track limits was defined as I think, where the white lines are, so long as he had 2 wheels sort of on the white lines. So the drivers were driving something which I think vaguely looked like Cota. Might not have totally been the same circuit as Herman Tilke and the rest of Tilke GmbH created, but it was still sort of Cota. Yeah, so it is going to be quite interesting. I do think that. I mean, all these drivers are absolutely pushing it to the limit as best they can, and yeah, I do think we are going to see quite a few people maybe getting the little box next to their name saying DT, not because they want to pay homage to the legendary Aston Martin works driver Darren Turner, but because they've got a drive-through penalty.
Meanwhile, Kostadinov is hot on the heels of Damien Wilk, and it seems like it's only a matter of time before he's going to make the overtake. You can tell that front engine is struggling again in the corners versus that mid-engine.
Yeah. I don't know if either of them have pitted yet, though.
I will tell you that in a second. No, neither of them have yet.
Okay, so I think that's why. So we might be seeing these two coming in fairly shortly, actually, for a pit stop, because mandatory pit stop in both races. And I thought that was very close from Kostadinov there on the brakes in the big BMW. Yeah. And in fact, Kostadinov decides that he's
gonna try the undercut.
Yep, going to try and get the undercut on Wilk. Clearly not happy being stuck in the dirty air from the back of the Lamborghini Huracan.
So looking at Wilk's laps, he's driving stable 209s. So there's a decent possibility for him to do 2 more laps. So he could potentially try and go for the overcut here. But of course, the high risk that if he cucks it up at any given moment during those, he's going to miss his pit stop. But it is possible. He has about 5 extra seconds to make it work. So as long as he trusts his ability, he could squeeze in out another 2 laps. This one included, of course.
I think Damien might actually pit at the end of this lap. So yeah, but either way, there is still a chance he might be able to get the overcut on Kostadinov in the BMW M4 car number 1. Coming onto the back straight now in the Lamborghini, and absolutely no wind to speak of either. Blake in the pits as well in the 159 Aston Martin. I think that a lot of the top few drivers are still yet to come into the pits as well. So in fact, I think
none of the top 10 currently have gone in the pit yet. So that means Crawford, Brown, Badowski, McDonald, Chipson, Wood, Dan Cott are still all out. They're basically just going for it.
Yeah.
But something that does have to be said is that Badowski, for the first time this entire race, has clinched the top lap of Brown. And overall, it looks like Badowski is slightly becoming quicker than Brown. So I'm wondering if that Ferrari isn't being as gentle on the tires as it should be, and that is where the difference is.
Yeah, I mean, also as well, the McLaren, because of course a lot of the teams are probably all sharing setups privately via respective little mini group chats they've got going, and just fair enough, completely understandable as well. So I am wondering if the Ferrari is also been designed to be maybe not quite so edgy compared to the McLaren. Maybe if you look at the respective driver lineups, you've got Mason, Chafer, Varga and Badowski in the McLaren, and then in the Ferrari you've got, well, Crawford, Brown, Nigel Woods and Magnus Dahlgren. So maybe I'm wondering if they've kind of...
Just to interject for a hot moment, Kostadinov coming across the finish line and Will now just about coming out of the pit lane, and now the question becomes, who comes out ahead of who?
Yep, so we're looking at Kostadinov now, and he's going to go round the outside inside, so he's going to get the position there from Damien Vilk, and also means that it was actually a smart bit of driving there from Kostadinov, because it meant he would have had the inside for turn 2 anyway. So Kostadinov there making the undercut work absolutely perfectly in the BMW to take 13th place from Damien Vilk. Meanwhile, Xavier Eugeni's got a stop and go 30 for ye good old speeding in the pit lane. Meanwhile, the battle up front's really hotting up here between Brown, Badowski, McDonald, and just thought we were going to be able to get Shipston in the back of the camera shot there. I think he is actually, no, that's a different car entirely, I think, but I think these three are all going to be coming in. Now, there goes Brown, there goes Badowski, and there goes McDonald, all for good measure. And that pit lane speed limit line is very early here at Cota as well.
And something that might happen that we saw last week is that Keselowski was the master of the undercut. He did the exact same he did last time. So I'm going to focus on him for a minute. Keselowski last week went into the pits at the start of both races and came out first in the second one. He did the ultimate undercut. We didn't even know he was in for the running. That's how early he pitted. But he managed to come out with 10 seconds spare.
Yeah. It's Reitzmer's also come into the pits as well, actually just in the nick of time because the pit window's just closed. So it's going to be interesting to see just how many places Kozłowski can jump up. He's not going to get past Brown, Badowski and McDonald as they've all come in. But you're absolutely right there, Red. He's got past up into 4th place, ahead of Shipson, ahead of Wood, and ahead of Reitzmer in the other Mercedes. Reitzmer still being in the pits because he was a very late pit caller, actually, to be fair. So, yeah, he has well and truly made that work. And in fact, Badowski's actually come out in the lead ahead of Crawford Brown.
And is this something you want? Is that truly the win you're going to want to grab? Not that I doubt that Badowski wants to win, but you got to keep in mind 30 kilograms on Cota. That's going to wear down your tires so much more quicker in those corners. Is this really what you want with these types of conditions? Do you want that extra penalty? Do you want those 30 kilos for those points? But you want to just gamble it all away on the second race?
Well, it's funny you say that because I think Badowski being at the top of the standings already has 30 kilos in the car.
No. They get their weights after race 1.
Oh, okay. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Well, he last time at Zandvoort, he came P1 and P2, although admittedly Zandvoort, not the easiest circuit in the world to try overtaking on. So, excuse me, sorry, they would have been quite lucky there.
Yeah, Zandvoort was, the weather was a lot more favorable than 35 and 46.
Yes, I know.
And in a way, Zandvoort is also more gentle on the tires. While a very corner-heavy track, it's not that high speed. And this track is just corner after corner in which you load up the rights and then for a very long time load up the left. Like, they're going to wear down very quickly, but they're going to wear down equally. Now, it does seem that Brown doesn't really have an answer here. Like, you can tell that whenever he gets into the slipstream, that becomes a very, very big possibility. But you can tell that outside of that slipstream, there's a bit of speed lacking. Oh, as they go side by side close to the corner.
Yeah, unless Brown's running a bit more wing to go through the corners a bit quicker, perhaps. And also, I wonder if Brown might be holding back a tiny bit. Although, as we just go on board with him, I can confirm the answer to that is no. He is not holding back at all. And in fact, goes for the lead there in the S's. So, what were we saying about him holding back? No,
he's
right.
Not holding back.
Scratch that.
As he brilliantly takes the inside corner. And here comes the third dog, McDonald.
Yeah, McDonald's getting through there in the front engine Lexus, a car which had actually a lot of success racing out here in America. McDonald going to go for the inside into the back straight and manages to get the position as well and goes into the lead on the final lap of the race. Means that it is now McDonald, Brown, Badowski. So after all that, Crawford Brown has stayed exactly where he is after all of that. And trying to break the slipstream there as well, I think. But Badowski's gonna have a little look on the brakes.
Has to back out. I think there was a little bit of contact there. Not a lot, though.
Yeah, I think Badowski backs out just to be on the safe side there. And coming through the Mickey Mouse section of the track, the stadium section that has absolutely no flow to it whatsoever, and quite why they decided to add that, I do not know.
He has a little bit more pace though by taking those corners wider, manages to put himself alongside Brown.
He's going to have to risk
final corner now.
He's going to have to take, I was going to say, in order to get the position from Brown though, he's going to have to take massive risks around the outside, and at that point you just know you're going to get done for track limits. But at the end of the first race here at Cota, it's going to be George McDonald winning from Crawford Brown and Marco Badowski.
Sad about that.
I don't know.
What happened there? Because that was before the finish line. I mean, he crossed it still in that same position, but
No, that was after.
Is that after? Because I see a finish line there.
That finish line is the start line.
Yeah, I think the finish line's much further back towards the final corner. There's a MO plate there in the GTR. There was Dan Birch in the Mercedes. Still keeping his foot in to a degree. There's Brian Gillisey. Verno Reitzmer there. There's Schaefer going for the what are the brakes option. And there is Peter Varga going to come across the line in 22nd place in the McLaren 720S GT3. Yes, this is one of those rather complicated tracks. Oh, crikey. Blake has been given a massive time penalty by the looks of things of plus
130 seconds. It means
I think that's for not
I think that's because he didn't take his stop and go penalty. So 130 seconds, that's 130 seconds is basically a lap around here in a GT3 car. So, yeah.
You can get 130 seconds if you don't take your pit stop.
Yep, then that's going to be what happened.
That makes sense then. Nathaniel Shirley in the YouTube chat pointed out that he was having wheel issues in the first race, and he'll join from the. He said wheel issues race 1, will join race from back hopefully. So that was the first race here at Circuit of the Americas this evening, and that was a cracking race indeed. Still looking at Xavier Eugenie in the TF Sport Aston Martin.
Beautiful car at Aston Martin.
I can remember the days when the TF behind TF Sport, Tom Ferrier, was actually still a racing driver, racing in the British Touring Car Championship. And that was a good few years ago, to be honest. I won't say exactly how many years ago that was, because I'm just going to feel really old. But yes, it was a wee while ago, shall we say. Yeah. So, cracking opening race here at Cota this evening. McDonald, Brown, Badowski being the top three. And now we're just waiting for everyone to get back round to the pits. There's the Ferrari there. And then Koszałowski, Shipston, Vlay and Atkinson, Wood, Plate, Mackie rounding out the top 10. Birch, Costadino, Vilt, Gillisey, Begg, Reitzmer, Barnett, Chafer, Al and Mason rounding out the top 20. So heading... I don't think we actually had a look much at the standings heading into the race. So heading into this evening, Lexus were on top by about 80 points from McLaren. Then there's a fairly substantial gap, I will admit, between McLaren and Mercedes. And then you got Mercedes on 972, Ferrari on 920, and then Audi on 905 points. Another bit of a gap back down to BMW on 781. Another bit of a gap down to this massive gaggle of teams here. We've got Honda on 671, Nissan on 642, Bentley on 636, Porsche on 615, and Lamborghini on 609. And then we've got another massive gap back down to Aston Martin on 447 points. So that was the Constructors' Championship.
You know what's quite interesting right now? You know, you got Brown with 20 kilos leading the pack straight off the line. You got Badowski in second with 10 kilos. And now you have McDonald in third with 30 kilos. I wonder if that order is going to shuffle itself. Or did Kozlowski play the long-term game? Did he purposefully try to put himself in fourth? And is he now going to aim for the win?
Kozlowski's a quick driver. He has done well back when the KOTP team were running the big Nissan GTR and actually won the championship a couple of seasons ago. So there is every chance that actually by playing the long game, he has pulled an absolute blinder heading into this race. So this could be really quite interesting, actually, to see what happens. There's still about a minute or so. Yeah, a minute or so before they start crawling around the last couple of corners.
Something else that my eye drops on is that we're going to see slower speeds along the main straight, seeing as there's literally a wind heading straight against it. So, I actually have no idea how much the wind together with ballast would impact the car.
Ooh, that is going to be...
I don't know if the game simulates that. Part of me wants to say yes. I think they would have thought of that, but I'm not entirely certain.
I think so. I think the game does do that, so it should theoretically simulate the wind conditions and how that affects the cars. So obviously, if you get a tailwind, you're going to be going faster down the straight. If you've got a headwind, you can brake a little bit later, etc., etc. So yeah, this could be quite interesting indeed.
There's a lot of possibilities here, and the temperatures are a lot more favorable for the tires now, 29-29.
The temperatures are now actually bearable, more to the point.
And it will get dark really quickly.
Yes, it will. Here at Cota, they come down the pit straight now, just waiting for the lights to go green, which they do now a lot quicker than they did in the first race, I should add. They head up the hill towards turn one. Front view, trying not to get into too much trouble. I think there was a bit of a collision going on in the background there. It's still Brown, Badowski, McDonald, Kozlowski. There's Lessentin has moved up in a position into 5th place. Eddie Warden's already in the pits. I think he's been clobbered by someone at turn 1. I did see one of the Bentleys going round, and I fear that might well have been Eddie getting hit with enough damage to actually make the car undrivable and cause him to retire from the race. Currently looking at Toby Atkinson in the KOTP Audi. Feels weird saying Audi instead of Nissan, but there we are. Got the Ferrari of Wood just behind him. So Atkinson up in 7th place, Wood just behind him there in 8th in the Ferrari. Both these mid-engine cars are going to be pretty quick around here. Currently on board with Atkinson in the... Now on board with Mason in the McLaren. Another McLaren just in front of him there in Martin Schaefer. Oh, very deep on the brakes there. Yeah. I think he was trying not to slam into the back of his teammate. Of course, one of the golden rules of motorsport being, whatever you do, don't take out your teammate. Something Senna versus Prost at Suzuka, 1989, something. There's Kostadinov, made the undercut work well in race 1, and now on board with Badowski, who's showing as being in the race lead, and with a fairly decent margin already over Crawford Brown and George McDonald. So I'm wondering where Crawford made a little bit of a mistake. McDonald's going to have a look around the outside into turn 1. Not quite able to get the move made there, though. Oh, bit of a mistake there from Atkinson in the Audi. You could just see the back end starting to come around, and he had to slam on the brakes to try and actually correct it. It's going to cost him a fair bit of time. On board the big, benign brute that is the Lexus RCF GT3. Car which, frankly, should have had much more success in Europe than it actually had. If they could have been bothered to have put together a decent works-ish team in Europe, that is. Car very successful out in America and in Japan as well, in series like Super Taikyu and Super GT. There's Brian Gillisey in the Honda in 13th place now, car number 15, with Jack Mason, I believe, just behind him in the McLaren. Down the back straight now and into whichever corner that is. Of course, Cota being one of these newfangled modern circuits where they don't have proper corner names like they used to back in the good old days. It's just turn 5, turn 9, turn 12, turn 20, or whatever, so on and so forth.
Can we be honest here for a second? Even if they were to have corner names, would you actually recognize them? Everything looks the same at Cota.
Probably not, no. It works at tracks like, say, Spa, for example. Obviously, you can recognize the corners there. It works at Silverstone. It works at Brands Hatch. It doesn't work on a modern track like this, though. Meanwhile, there is a massive gaggle of cars here. That is fantastically close there. There's Shipston getting muscled out wide there in the Lexus, losing a couple of positions to Wood, and Brown going down a couple of positions as well. So Brown is back ahead of Wood in the Ferraris. Atkinson now up into second place in that Audi, which of course doesn't have any ballast in it. The Badowski is currently in a McLaren that has the equivalent of about half of me, or whoever won the first race, rather, which I think was Badowski, in fact. Oh, McDonald, excuse me. Yep. Sorry, yeah. McDonald's currently dropped down to 6th, so I wonder whether the ballast is at play there. He's let Shipston past for 5th place, Shipston being one of the other Lexi. Wondering if that was more of a strategic move, given that Shipston, like Atkinson, doesn't have ballast in the car at the moment. So I do wonder if maybe a little bit of a team strategy is at play there. And of course, Shirley is no slouch either, and he's right down in he's down in 21st at the moment, battling with I think he's not too far off Kozłowski. In fact, something must have happened to Kozłowski, because he was right up the sharp end.
What he always does is far. Oh, no, you're right.
No,
There's
he's
pit
down
stop on
20th. The pit
Kazowski.
window isn't open. He must have been involved in an incident somewhere. He's currently, yeah, so we're with Kazowski now. He's got Shirley right there with him. Shirley, who I think started at the back of the grid as well.
Yeah, it seems like he got
There's some damage at the
rear-ended.
rear.
Yes, he has indeed been drilled from behind, shall we say. And yeah, there's someone getting the meatball flag there as well for damage. So didn't see which car number it was, but who knows at this point. But either way, Al, RWB Audi and co, I feel sorry for you. You're going to be having a very, very long night on evening on Monday, and yeah, you are probably, yeah, good luck with that one. Currently with McDonald's now in 5th place in the Lexus. He's actually gone back past Shipston, so what all I said earlier about, oh, it's probably a tactical thing, the Lexus drivers letting each other pass, etc, etc, yeah, that's turned out to be absolute rubbish, as per usual. I'm a journalist. We don't do maths. We try putting 2 and 2 together. We get 6.
As Kazowski tries to go for the move on Mad Al,
He's
doesn't
got
manage to pull it off, and Shirley is going to take the opportunity from that, go
Shirley.
alongside here, and as it stands, Shirley has the inside line.
Yeah, well, Shirley's already ahead, so he's got the corner anyway.
Well, not entirely, but it seems. I think there's a little bit. Yeah, Kazowski backs out, smart as he is. Gonna try to go for the switcheroo, hits the sausage curb, has to back out again.
Yeah.
Mad Al, however, now has his eyes on Mason. Definitely a little bit of an opportunity there, especially if there's another straight coming up, which there is in a little bit after we get through the horrible Mickey Mouse section.
Yes, this absolute abomination of circuit design. Quite honestly. I should add, these are solely the views of Rob Lowe 97 and do not necessarily reflect those of RWB International. Get the legal disclaimer out the way before someone decides to sue us, as Mad Al makes a bit of a mistake there coming out the penultimate corner, runs very wide indeed, and I think backs out of it a bit as well, so as not to gain an advantage, and thus Shirley is able to move up into 19th place in the Lexus. Shirley putting in a cracking drive given the how his evening's gone so far. No real participation in the first race, and due to steering wheel issues, which is why I don't think he actually set a time in qualifying either. And yeah, he is.
There's a lot to unpack here right now. We got Lessington straight on Damien Wilkes' ass in P10 and Wilk himself in P9. Meanwhile, Varga in front of him is hunting the rear of Plate, while Plate is hunting Brown. And all of these cars are really close together, in my opinion.
But the thing with the thing is though, is that we're coming up to the back straight now, so the Nissan's going to pull away a bit, because let's face it, that Nissan is basically a massive engine, and with all due respect, it's not the easiest car to drive in the twist bits. I mean, look at the gap that Plate has pulled already. In fact, he's going to have a look
on Brown's
inside of Brown, but that's just a straight line speed impact the Nissan has, effect of the Nissan. It's fantastically quick on the straights. It's just in this section here, he's basically just poor Emo's just hanging on for dear life almost. He's stuck behind the ballasted Brown, and meanwhile Varga is well and truly able to close up in the McLaren, and then Damien's able to do the same in the Lamborghini.
Something that could very well be mentioned is that Brown can make his car incredibly wide, especially on a circuit like this. And you can just notice that ripple effect every single time he blocks Plate. Plate has to slow down. Varga doesn't find an opening past Plate, and it just ripples down this battle. And there is not a lot that they can do about it.
No, it's like watching Jarno Trulli back in the day in Formula One. You know, he had the old Trulli train. Meanwhile, Plate has just gone for the Yep, I'm coming up the inside regardless,
yeah.
and that's... But, yeah,
Brown
manages
just
to...
pulling the beautiful switchback, absolutely perfect defense there, goes wide, grabs the Foster line, knows the goddamn Nissan can't turn quick enough, and just pulls it off.
Can't turn quick enough. The bloody thing can't stop quick enough, mate.
How about
As well,
both?
for that matter.
Why not
Yeah.
both?
I mean, that is basically the Nissan, and the in a nutshell, it is. I do wonder if.
Nissan is just a little brick.
Well, yeah, pretty much, and yet it's a brick that's been devastatingly effective on some very twisty circuits, if I may say so, back in Japan, in tracks like Okayama, Sugo, Otopolis. You know, it's been pretty competitive there in Super GT in the GT300 class.
Blake trying once more to try and go along the outside. I don't think it's going to work.
No,
Not in that car.
Meanwhile, speaking of something that's not going to work, one of the other Nissans, the number 16 of Dan Barnett, has received the hallowed drive-through penalty for track limits.
Can we... I want to acknowledge this for a second. As much as we hate the Circuit of the Americas, this is some of the closest racing I have seen in a long time. This is how many cars in a literal train?
Yes.
Because there's only a very tiny gap that just recently opened up. But we've been going with this race for a while. Pit window open and everything. And just look how many cars are compressed to essentially 2 corners.
Yeah, it is quite something. Crawford Brown is just like, yeah, no, I'm going to give my tyres a bit of a rest and maybe change them. Atkinson also coming very early as well. Atkinson actually being slightly further ahead of Brown on track, so will have come in a little bit earlier. So this could actually... So Atkinson in the 112 Audi, if he can get a bit of clear track... God, man, this man looks borderline undrivable. As I was saying, if Atkinson can get a bit of clear track here, he could be laughing all the way to the bank, pretty much. We know that he's quick round here. He doesn't have any ballast. It's just how much is the ballast going to impact Badowski in the 45 car? So Atkinson's come out
now finding the opening around Plate. Plate just not having an answer for it, and it seems like Wilk is now going to do the exact same.
Yeah,
Plate doesn't have an opportunity to defend in a brick like the Nissan.
Yeah, also I think Plate might have actually done the tyres as well.
He has to have pushed it too hard. Haynes trying to find a way over the sausage curb that can be only described as launching his car to the moon.
Yes, well, at least his Porsche is at least just as well. They didn't have sausage curbs at Hockenheim at the weekend in the DTM race. On the run-ups to that big grandstand just before the arena section, where there was a very, very nasty accident involving Dennis Olsen and a few other drivers, and actually saw the engine getting ripped clean out of the back of Olsen's car as well. And if there had been sausage curbs there, I honestly dread to think how bad that could have been.
Good evening, gents.
As we currently look at... Well, Damien's now up to 6th, so... not sure what's... yeah, Begg, he's got past, well, him and Plate have... Yeah, no, that's shown there. Never mind. Max Haynes comes in the Porsche, so does Chafer in the McLaren. And then...
We're having some technical difficulties finding cars not going into the pit lane.
Yeah, we're doing a very good job at the moment trying to second guess everyone's pit strategy. So I'm half expecting Giorgio Minga to be coming into the pits in the Bentley any second. Now he's battling away with the Mercedes there of Lessentin, and yeah, what was I saying about Minga coming into the pit? No, so I was Bonnie, excuse me, in the Nissan. Never mind. Same colour as the Mercedes, but yeah, what were we saying about finding cars coming into the pits?
Yeah, I can't seem to find any that are not going into the pit lane right now.
Okay, so I'm guessing this is why we're with Badowski then, because he tends to leave it to the absolute last moment possible.
Well, one of the reasons why I went over to Badowski is because I'm seeing something on my charts that is fairly interesting. So there's currently only one driver on track that has managed to properly outpace Badowski, which is George McDonald, which is not what you would expect, seeing as the guy has 30 kilograms of like weight extra on his car. The guy has been driving a 207 while Badowski has been driving a 207.3. Now, here's the kicker about it. Badowski's pace is slowly decreasing. So I'm wondering if McDonald is actually still in this for a possible win.
You know what? I think McDonald's, the guys like McDonald, Badowski, Brown, Wood, for example, surely would have done some setup stuff during the week where they actually simulated doing a race distance with 20-30 kilo of ballast, for example. And I'm wondering if that's impacted their setup decision, so as to how the ballast affects the tyre wear and all of that lot, etc., etc. So I am wondering if they have actually all thought kind of what the long game is here and decided to actually let the effects of the ballast potentially influence their setup decisions.
I mean, they definitely could have. Now, you do have to keep in mind that if McDonald does want to still challenge for the win, it is a difficult one because he is 8.4 seconds behind, and that still means he needs to pause Nigel Wood, which is about 1.3 seconds in front of McDonald. And Wood himself is 7 seconds away from Badowski, so this is not an easy challenge. On paper, Badowski hasn't really got anything challenging him here, except for the fact that there's a car that's about a quarter of a second faster per lap. But that still makes it very, very tight for McDonald to catch, but not impossible.
Yeah, but at that rate, though, then if there was, say, given there's like 22 minutes left of the race, at that rate, given it's about, what, 210, well, 207-ish a lap, you're looking at maybe McDonald taking maybe 2.5 seconds out of that gap by the end of the race.
However, you
roughly
do have to keep in mind, as I said, Badowski's pace is slowly decreasing. So what is currently about 0.3 a second slower has now turned into 0.9 a second slower. Just to give you an idea, it already happens.
Yeah, I think that Badowski's tyres are starting to go, maybe, and he is going to have to come into the pits quite soon for the for his one and only mandatory pit stop. Of course, all drivers have to make a mandatory stop in both races here. So we currently look at Mad Al in the GTR. The still second of the GTRs at the moment. Only MO Plate is ahead of him. MO in 6th, Mad Al in 11th.
You know, there is something I can't prove. I've raced quite a bit around the track. And every single time I find myself behind Dahlgren's Ferrari, I could swear the man runs zero wing. You can't catch him on a straight. So this might get really interesting between him and Mad Al, seeing who is quicker, the Nissan or the zero wing Ferrari, as they go up that hill. I think Dahlgren might actually have a real possibility here to dive into the inside lane and take it.
Yeah, but also if you're running zero wing, you've also got to try and get the car stopped at the other end of the straight, which is not easy. As Mad Al runs a little bit wide there. He's got the inside for turn 2, but Dahlgren's got the momentum and sweeps past around the outside as they head down the hill through turn 2 into the S's now. 3, 4, and already pulling a good few car lengths clear. Meanwhile, Chafer has been given a drive-through penalty for ye old track limits. That's not the name of a pub. That is just what he has done. And you see him running very wide there coming out of turn 1, I think. As we currently look at Vlayen in the Audi. Car number 666. Which I wholeheartedly approve of because metal. Currently in 20th at the moment. Meanwhile, this battle going on, but oh crikey, who have we got? So we got Varga, Vilk, Plate, and Kostadinov. Oh crikey, this is going to be.
Have you been hooked on the word crikey because of George Russell?
No.
I swear you didn't used to say that, and I feel like that would be a very you thing to catch your word because a professional racing driver says it.
No. No. As Vilk has decided that he wants to come into the pits, as does, well, Kostadinov won't be getting the undercut on Vilk this time around. There's Shirley in the Lex. Crikey, he's already up to P9. Blimey. There's some going from Shirley, to be fair, which given that he had to retire, he skipped qualifying because he was having issues with his wheel. Couldn't take part in the first race, had to start the second race from the back of the grid, and managed to get up to P9 before the pit stops. Fair play to him. That is some going.
That is some going indeed. However, he's currently already dropping back down to P13, but still.
Yeah, but given the circumstances, though, this evening, that is he's gonna enjoy that post-race beer afterwards. I know that much. You're gonna really enjoy it. Mad out also into the pits. There's MO plates there in the Nissan. Now looking at Badowski in the 45 McLaren. Crawford Brown still with the fastest lap of the race, down in 23rd. See if Badowski, excuse me, is going to pit this time by his 4 minutes 20-ish left on the clock. Coming up to the penultimate corner now, so theoretically he should be able to go for 2 more laps at the kind of lap times he's doing, and yeah, that is going to be cutting it pretty fine though. So it's just like the old World Endurance Championship days when the race here used to start early evening and finish under the lights.
So this is where the question comes again. Does Damien Wilk make it with the undercut? Because you got to keep in mind, Wilk, Kostadinov, and Shirley came in, and they were all battling Plate and Varga. Varga currently went into the pit lane, and now the question becomes, do they come out in front? Now, you can tell already that Max managed to get ahead in position so far, so whatever he did worked. But the question now becomes, do they get past Varga? Did they make the right call?
Don't know. It's... I'm just looking at where they are on track now. Varga came into the pits quite some way ahead. Damien Vilk is going to cross the start line. Now it's showing as him having moved up into 11th place.
And
there's Varga leaving the pits there in the McLaren. He's had a
very bad pit stop.
Yeah, he's had a big...
He lost, what, 5 positions?
Yeah, he's lost positions too. Certainly Vilk, Kostadinov, and Shirley.
So now I'm wondering if
you got the getting the pit entry right, and then you got the actual pit stop itself to get right.
Yeah, the pit entry here at Cota is absolutely bloody evil because it comes up so much quicker than you expect as well.
It's still not as bad as Paul Ricard, though, let's be real.
Oh, no, it's not as bad as... Well, no, Paul Ricard was just dangerous.
Yeah, the old Paul Ricard entry that is still used in ACC is just...
That is dangerous. There's a reason why F1 insisted that the following year they actually had to redo the pit entry for safety reasons. So,
yep.
Wait, F1 doing something about safety? No. I'm shocked to hear this. As Badowski is in, so is Wood, and that is a Lexus in there as well. That's going to be one of them. Couldn't quite make out who that was, unfortunately, if it was Shipston or McDonald. But now the real question is, yeah, I think both of them came in.
But Shipston's ahead.
Yep, Shipston's back ahead of McDonald, and
Rob Salmon is informed as I am.
There is wood there. There's MO plate. You can just see the 4 rings there of the tail lights on the Nissan GTR. The big question is that Dahlgren's come in as well. So Atkinson, by virtue of being one of the first to pit, should be there. He is there in the Audi. So he is just behind Wood in the Ferrari. But of course has the benefit of tyres that are actually up to temperature. Meanwhile, Kozłowski's race has gone from good to bad to oh bloody hell, what now? As he's been given a drive-through penalty. He's currently down in 16th, but he won't be there for much longer. And Dahlgren's been given a stop-and-go 30, presumably for making a right mess of the pit lane entrance.
Something else that needs to be said, though, Rob, is that this is a worst-case scenario for McDonald and Shipston. But Dowski came out of the pit with an 8.5-second gap. That means it increased.
Yeah, Marco is one of the top drivers for a reason. Like, there's a reason why he drives the RST entry in the Endurance Championship, and he's one of the driver coaches on the server as well. And there is a very good reason for that, and this is clearly demonstrating why. He's
good.
Because he's managed to extend the gap somehow. I mean, he must have had an absolute blinder of an in-lap.
Played diving right there on Kostadinov, and now trying his hand at Wilk.
Yeah.
That is another 5-way battle, isn't it? 6
yeah.
I think.
Well, they've got Shirley ahead of them. I mean, the fact that Shirley is even in the top 10 after the pit window.
I'll give you the stats. So currently the most amount of overtakes is for Nathaniel Shirley, who took 26 positions so far. Then you have Max Haynes, who took 16 positions. You have Magnus Dahlgren currently, who has 14 positions, which I'm afraid he's going to lose most of them with the stop and go 30.
Yes, sadly he will.
By far, though, the biggest one that lost the most amount of positions is, oh my God, Crawford Brown minus 15 positions.
Yeah, I think he might have been involved in that incident with Kozłowski earlier on, because I'm wondering if he's got damage on that Ferrari as to why he's dropped down quite as many positions as he has. So yeah, I'm wondering if he actually took extra time in the pits to maybe fix damage on the his bright yellow Ferrari. Oh, Wrightsman's still got his drive through as well as Dan Birch there. If I was in Dan's position, I knew my teammate had a drive through penalty, I wouldn't actually put that much effort into trying to actually overtake him, because he'd have to come into the pits fairly soon anyway. I remember once playing F1 2013 online with some friends. There's Ian Begg making a
very ambitious bomb.
Yeah, that was ambitious and unsuccessful. And now we're 3 wide down the back straight. It's Begg. I can see Vlaien's car there as well. I can see Kostadinov in the BMW. There's Varga just ahead of them, and Begg is going to hold on in the Audi. Kostadinov's actually going to get past Vlaien here because he's got the inside for this next corner, and does in turn get the position. Nothing Vlaien can do there.
Vlaien had to back off.
Yeah, I think Vlaien backs out of it big time in the 666 Audi. And yeah, that move on the brakes into the onto the back straight there from Begg. Stuff like that does tend to have a name. There's a saying for it in the industry, low percentage lunge. Where you make an attempt, but there's a very low percentage chance of you pulling it off. See also just about every attempt at trying to overtake into the hairpin at Long Beach, for example, at the end of the lap. That usually ends in tears. So, yeah, I think that one there's a chance it might be getting looked at by the stewards on Monday night. Potentially if it gets reported. So yeah, Shirley up into 8th place now, Haynes 7th, Lessington 6th, Atkinson, Wood, McDonald, Shipston, Badowski, Vilkin 9th, MO Plate rounding out the top 10 with about 8 minutes to go. Still on board with Kostadinov trying to hold off Vlayen.
Vlayen's got a drive-through.
Yeah, Vlayen as well, the amount of times he's gone off track alone in the time we've been on board the back of Kostadinov's car. That's not surprising, unfortunately. That's Vlayen, and oh dear, this is going to be more
another drive-through from Martin Schaefer.
Yeah, that's going to be some interesting banter later this evening for you then, Damien.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think we'll just leave it at that. It's gonna be that's gonna be a good one then. There's Dan Barnett there in 20th, battling with Kozłowski, and in fact Barnett having already got past Kozłowski in the 919 Mercedes, a car number that's been more reminiscent of Porsche in recent years, though quite why it feels a little bit weird to be saying the 919 Mercedes when most people think of the rather fabulous Porsche LMP1 car, as Kozłowski is still battling away there with Barnett. Barnett still just about able to hold on to the position as Vlayen comes in, so that's it's free real estate for those two. It's another position they're going to be making probably quite quickly, or are they? Because they're only coming up to the penultimate corner now, and actually Vlayen might just, because it's only a drive-through penalty, stay ahead of this little battle here. Vlayen is actually showing us now out of the pits, so I think he is going to...
I think he only lost...
Hold on.
Oh wait, he lost 3 positions. I thought he lost 1 only.
Vlayen has actually, given the circumstances, actually not come out of that too badly. Only losing 3 positions, so as Schaefer is in now in the 13 McLaren. Whether he loses as many positions remains to be seen. There's Crawford Brown in the Ferrari. Still fastest lap of the race, 206.9. I think he might actually be the only driver to have got into the 206s in this race, I believe.
I'll double check that for you real quick.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah, you are correct. He is the only one. The one that's gone closest is George McDonald with 207.06.
Yeah. So I think given the state of everyone's tyres now, even though it's nice and cool outside now, I don't think anyone's going to really be in a position to challenge Crawford for fastest lap. Meanwhile, there's George McDonald in the Lexus, currently in P3, doing a brilliant job given the amount of ballast he's got on board the car at the moment, and same for Badowski as well. And let's not forget, Crawford Brown's not exactly running a lightweight car either. He still has some ballast on from race 1. So all 3 of them doing a very admirable job indeed, given the circumstances. There's just 4 minutes left of the race to go. And I think we might be able to get 2 more laps in here.
Ooh.
Brown is just chasing everyone really quickly now.
Yeah, Brown knows he's got the quicker car than Ian Begg. And
Even with the ballast on board.
yeah, even with the ballast as well. Begg taking a very defensive line there into the corner onto the back straight, but Brown is going to be able to pull alongside. It's going to be a drag race down the back straight here, and Brown does have the inside line for the next corner, gets back behind the Audi into the slipstream of Begg's car. He's going to have a look around the outside. Begg taking a more defensive line there, but that's going to put him at risk. And this is what I said, it's going to be at risk now from Brown, as Brown's got the inside for this part of the arena section. Actually, it's going to bring Kostadinov into the mix as well in the BMW. So very intelligent heads-up driving there from Crawford Brown.
That was a thing of beauty.
So
I said that overtake was a thing of beauty.
yeah, Crawford Brown there up into 12th place, currently on board with Kostadinov in the BMW M4. Car that was built to race on the Nordschleife, and Varga has come into the pits for some reason. I don't really quite know why Varga has come into the pits.
Maybe he didn't have
fuel
enough
issue.
fuel.
Yeah. That's the only reason I could think of, because his car didn't look damaged from what I saw when we passed him.
Yeah.
Ooh, Begg having a little wiggle there. Kostadinov going to exploit that opportunity. Puts that BMW pause, but Begg still has a little bit of an opening here. He might actually be able to go for another counterattack. That Audi is rapid through these S's, and the BMW is not. But as far as it seems, Kostadinov just holds his car in the correct line, and Begg is going to have to yield that position and then look past and see that there is, I don't know, is it a back marker behind him or not?
That's one of the Mercedes. That's Reitzma. So Reitzma is currently down in.
I have to correct you. That's Berno.
Yeah, that's Berno
He's
Reitzma.
29.
Reitzma is down in. Well, he's not even showing on the timing totem thingy. So he's at least. Well, he's 24th at absolute best case scenario. I mean, you've got access to a bit more data than what I have, to be fair, Red. So you might know a little bit better than I do. But yeah, Reitzma is well and truly down the field in the
27th at the moment.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
If he is behind, he's trying really hard to unlap himself.
He's trying. I fear there's quite a lot of emphasis on the word trying, though.
Nigel Wood trying to go around the outside into the first corner. McDonald just only narrowly holding him off by squeezing him onto the curbs.
Yeah, that was just seeing how late Wood was braking there in the Ferrari. I thought for a moment he was going to actually sail straight on and pretty much miss the corner, but no, he managed to get the car stopped just about in time. Unfortunately, there was a Lexus parked on the inside, so very, very good defensive driving there by McDonald, trying to hold on to a 2-3 finish for Lexus. It's going to be a very strong result indeed, actually, in the constructors' standings for them here. A second, a third, and possibly the ultimate what could have been tonight, with Shirley in 7th place, which, I mean, 7th place in this field is nothing to be sniffed at, but when you started absolutely dead last due to technical issues, that is some going indeed. And
It needs to be said
fair play
that he's
to him.
currently done 27 overtakes
Yeah,
to get where he is.
yeah, fair play to him.
Nigel Wood getting the inside line, sticking his nose next to McDonald.
And McDonald's
still
got the
in the defensive
inside for the
line.
next corner, though.
Here comes the switchback.
And
Nigel Wood doesn't get on the power, just just enough traction control, maybe kicking in a little bit too much. McDonald holding on just the last little bit.
As meanwhile, I think the leaders are coming up to the finish line. Now there's a back marker there in front, and Badowski crosses the line to take the win. Meanwhile, we're still looking at the battle for
Hold up.
third place between McDonald and Wood.
One more lap.
No, we don't. The checkered flag's been waved. The checkered has been
Badowski
waved.
does not register on the paper as a win already.
That's interesting. The game graphics are showing that Badowski has won. In fact, he's already gone into the pits. Shipston second, McDonald third, Wood fourth, Atkinson, Lessentin, Shirley, Vilk, Plate, and Crawford Brown managing to salvage a top 10 out of that. Then Max Haynes, Kostadinov, Begg, Mason, Hottie, Vlayan, Al, Varga, Lenz, Barnett, Kajowski, Gillisee, and Matt Sherblum rounding out the top 23. Then it's Al Gartner, Magnus Dahlgren in the Ferrari in 25th place. And I think we just watched Mason cross the coast over the start line there.
That is really weird.
And Chafer's been given... Chafer's got another drive-through penalty, which he's not going to be able to serve. Oh, Martin,
no.
mate. That's... Yep. Good luck in the group chat tonight, mate.
Upon the GT Hub logo.
Yeah. All I will say to Chafer is good luck in the group chat tonight. Yeah, good luck, have fun, etc., etc. You're going to need it. So everyone else is in the pits as this. Yeah, there's Reitzman down in 28th. So after Sherblum, Al Gartner, Martin Chafer, Dan Birch, Giorgio Minga, Reitzman there in 28th, and then Blake in 29th. There's Dahlgren in the Ferrari. Coming home there. There's Begg's car still on the circuit. There's Sherblum coming through as well. And that was all very good fun indeed. Chafer's actually been given a plus 30-second penalty. Ian Mackey in 31st place has a drive-through penalty, I've just noticed. Showing as also being plus 11 laps. So good luck getting a drive-through penalty there. And Crawford Brown saying that he may have started on the old tyres. Well, so
a lot.
Yeah, that might indeed. So that was the 5th round of the RWB International Constructors Championship. We've got the 27.5k F3 Cup coming up on Thursday evening, and a bit of Automobilista 2 on Friday night for fun, and then the GT 2022 Euro League on Saturday evening. The